Today's episode is brought to you by Audible, where you could get a 30-day free trial and a free audiobook at audible.com/I don't even own a television. They have so many books, you won't even know what to do. So sign up now. 2, 1, 2, 3. There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all, 'cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television. Hello and welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television, a podcast about bad books. I'm your host, J.W. Friedman, and with me today is Adam Marler.
Hello, hi.
Hey, it's good to have you on.
Yes.
So today we're going to be talking about a book that I'm sure is going to stir up some controversy as soon as people see the title of the episode.
Yes.
It's Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land, which I find completely awful and abhorrent. But, you know, he's got a pretty great reputation.
It won a Hugo Award. So.
It did, and actually, I just discovered this today when I was doing some research. In 2012, it was included in a Library of Congress exhibition called Books That Shaped America.
Huh, yeah.
Which I don't know what that says about.
Yeah, for better or worse, it shaped America.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. The phrase rugged individual is used in this book like twice unironically, so I guess maybe kind of did.
Right.
So yeah, lots of people really love Heinlein. Lots of people really hate him. I probably fall closer to that end of the spectrum. I don't know about what your opinion of him is in general. I know.
Yeah. This is the only book of his I've read. You know, I'm vaguely familiar with Starship Troopers and that kind of thing, but this is the only one I've read.
I actually think that's pretty much true of me as well, other than, I did actually read the book Starship Troopers when I was much younger because I enjoyed the movie a lot. And I thought it was pretty great. A lot of the satire in the movie, it seemed real self-aware. And I found out later that was like almost all added in by Paul Verhoeven, the director who also did RoboCop. So,
right, yeah.
So after watching that movie, I was like, hey, I'm going to go check out this book. And man, yeah, that book is not self-aware or satirical at all.
No, well, like I was reading reviews of Stranger in a Strange Land, and like the word crypto-fascist kept kind of coming up, referring to Heinlein himself, yeah.
Yeah, he has some really questionable political ideas, and really kind of uses his books as a platform for them. And from what I was reading, this was kind of the first book where he really felt like he could let loose like that. Prior to that, he was being marketed primarily towards children and adolescents, and I guess this book was actually rejected by his original publisher. So yeah, this was the first time that he was like, I'm going to go crazy and make a book for adults. And then they were like, too much.
Yeah. Well, I also read that he wrote the first half when he was younger, like back in the 40s. And then the second half later on, like, in the late 50s. And so it's kind of, the first half is like more action-packed and fun, kind of, I thought.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
Yeah, and the second half is kind of like, this is how I think society might end up. Here's the blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I was re-listening, because I have this on audiobook, and it's narrated by a guy who talks even faster than I do. It's really, really difficult to get through. I was re-listening to parts of it today, and it struck me that if this book ended after, part 1, which is where we'll get into this in a second, it would have been great. But it does, it drags on and kind of turns into this like dreary sort of didactic yeah. But okay, so before we go too deep here, I guess we're going to do this new segment, Plot in 60 Seconds.
Yes.
I'm going to give you 60 seconds to summarize the book, and at the end we will see how far you've gotten. So if you are prepared, 3, 2, 1, go! Okay,
so the first off, the book starts off, there was a mission to Mars, which kind of failed. A lot of people, all the crew died except for one young man who was Valentine Michael Smith, who survived, and he was raised by Martians. So then he's rescued. A rescue mission comes, and they rescue him and bring him back to Earth. And he has a bunch of cool psychic powers, and he's never seen a woman. And then he starts a religion that's all about like free love. And he has, and he's also just some weird like law quirk. He's also owns Mars technically because he's the only human survivor of, kind of a colonial, I claim this land for Spain kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so
15 seconds.
Oh, he's crazy wealthy, and so a bunch of political and social forces are trying to get control of him, and he keeps teleporting them to some weird dimension, and then he finally... Oh, he's also like a Christ figure in a lot of ways, too.
Time's up.
Well, that's because the plot kind of peters out halfway through, too, so, I mean, like...
Yeah,
it sets up, and then it's kind of an interesting premise, I thought. But
yeah, the first section is pretty. I thought was actually kind of cool. Mm-hmm. I mean, other than some obvious flaws we'll get into, but for the beginning of the book, when he first comes to Earth, he's being very carefully guarded and kind of kept from the public by the evil fascist government. The one world government of the future, I believe. Yeah,
the space UN or whatever.
But yeah, so that part of the book is pretty cool. There's a lot of kind of political maneuvering, and a newspaper reporter bugs the room to get evidence that they're trying to exploit his claim to owning Mars. But yeah,
never mind that there are Martians on Mars. But.
Yeah, but they don't count. They're not here. Yeah. So yeah, there's some weird attitudes about colonialism in here too. But yeah, so then once he gets out of the hospital finally, and he ends up moving in with a guy who's a lawyer and a doctor, named Jubal something. Jubal
Harshaw.
Jubal Harshaw, yeah, that's it. And who is kind of a Hugh Hefner-esque character in this book.
I think it's supposed to be Heinlein himself. A sexy, smart, kind of older, wise writer character.
Yeah, I could see that actually, and I mean he's definitely positioned to as the foil to the other character, the newspaper writer Baxter, and that he's very sexually conservative, and as we'll see as we get into this book later on, Jubal is certainly not, and neither is Heinlein. I would say. And so the second half of the book, there's a lot of free love type philosophy, but in this really weird paternalistic way that's creepy as hell.
Well, the part about the Eskimos, did you catch that?
Oh yeah, that's good. Why don't you get into it?
So it's okay. I'll just read it real quick.
Yeah, that's probably best.
Eskimos were invariably described as the happiest people on Earth. Any unhappiness they suffered was not through jealousy. They didn't have a word for it. They borrowed.
Sorry.
They had a lot for snow, but none for jealousy.
Yeah, and that means it didn't exist.
Right. Yeah. They borrowed spouses for convenience and fun. It didn't make them unhappy. So who's loony? Look at this glum world around you, then tell me. A couple other articles I read said that he, kind of in other of his books, it was kind of more free love, like to the extreme, like like grandkids and grandparents and aunts and uncles, whatever. It's space future. You can do whatever.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the biggest criticisms. Even other science fiction writers that acknowledge, this guy's been hugely influential, but is kind of his championing of, I guess what you can really only call pedophilia and incest. Maybe not so much that he championed them, but he was just kind of like, okay, that's cool.
It's the future, people aren't going to worry about these kind of petty old distinctions between,
Yeah, I don't know. It just really surprised me that he managed to remain in a relationship with anybody after publishing these things. So.
And he seems very politically conservative and everything, too, and otherwise.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a strong libertarian bent to almost everything he wrote. And the older he got, the less concerned with dressing it up with plot he became. And to the point where I guess, his last 4 or 5 books all had the same characters and setting and were kind of just these lengthy polemics delivered, through character voices. So.
Well, also, I mean, to kind of highlight that, one of his short stories was called By His Bootstraps.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just found that on Wikipedia.
I know that he was in the Navy for a long time, and then apparently he wrote for Boys Life magazine, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Yeah, well, I guess his early stuff was more like, for kids, and it was like just straight up sci-fi adventure stories, I think.
Yeah, I think I would have liked that a lot better than this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think my favorite part of this book is the weird living arrangement that Jubal has.
Oh, man, that was going to be my favorite paragraph.
Well, we can, we can dig deeper into it later, but he lives with, 3 women or 2?
Three sexy secretaries.
Yeah, and one of them's a scientist or something, right?
Yeah, one of them's a scientist, but he just wants her to bring drinks to him.
Yeah, and the men in this book all call women by pet names constantly.
Oh, dude, yeah. So I found this article written by Nicole Cliff from the All.
Oh, cool.
The website, and so this is all the words that people refer to the Jill character by. So awesome. It's pretty great. I'll read them real quick. So Dimples, Honey, 4 instances of calling her Honey. Honey Child, Honey Lamb, Little One, Sugarfoot, Baby Girl, Sweetheart, The Babe, Little Slut, Cherub, Good Girl, Pretty Foots, Baby, Youngster, Dear, Child, Girl, Little Girl, and Wench.
And this is all by, for the most part, men who are attracted to her, if not involved with her. I think it's worth noting, in the beginning, she has kind of a romance with the newspaper character, Baxter, who refers to her as Little One almost constantly, and that really creeped me out.
Yeah, it's kind of like I don't know, sci-fi Mad Men, kind of that kind of weird paternalistic, jokey, flirty. Just, you know. Yeah,
everybody's just all like, "Oh, you big silly."
Yeah, kind of that thing.
I think it may have even been hammered home a little bit more to me because of the audiobook format.
Oh, right.
The narrator definitely went out of his way to take great pains to use a lady voice whenever the women were speaking.
That's always
and he
fun.
makes all of them sound like this. It's really, really awful.
Yeah.
And I thought Pretty Foots was my favorite.
Pretty Foots, both feet, not just one.
Yeah, but foots, not feet. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's very dated. A lot of that stuff is super dated, but
it is, and it just makes the whole book kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, that was like I to be honest, I stopped reading it about then. Like when it got to Jubal Harshaw's weird little heron situation, I was like, this is all too much. Hey, chickie baby, make me a martini kind of stuff.
Totally. Like it is like that 1960s kind of like Playboy, but
yeah. Well, it's like oh, you know, where culture has gotten to the point where they can acknowledge that sex exists and people like to have sex and stuff, but it's still that weird like paternalistic kind of, well, I'm the man and you're the woman, so nice feets there, Sugarfoots or whatever.
Honey Child,
yeah.
Would you like your grits on the side, or I don't know? Yeah, Honey Child like always reminds me of like diners in the South.
Sure, yeah, so. I don't know that I've ever heard anybody say that out loud. So.
Yeah, no, I mean you hear that a lot if you eat at a Cracker Barrel.
Oh, right.
So, so I don't know, like. It's filled with that kind of stuff. The Valentine Michael Smith character, the actual Martian, is kind of used as a mouthpiece for Heinlein because he arrives on Earth as a blank slate, basically. Right. He's like the ultimate tabula rasa in that he has no knowledge of human interaction, society, or culture.
Right.
So he's a character that Heinlein can kind of use to be like, well, isn't it silly that people think this or this or this or this, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he's got his funny Martian ways, and he doesn't understand things like, I don't know, everything, anything, especially like religion. He uses Michael Smith to satirize religion a lot, like with the Fosterites and everything.
Yeah, oh man, the Fosterites are great.
I like that. That part was pretty fun, the Fosterites.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really tell. I mean, he definitely is supposed to be a conglomeration of a ton of religions, and he definitely positions them as a cult, kind of, within the book, and it basically seems like megachurch Christianity, but they also all fuck each other.
Right, they fuck each other, and they have like church-branded beer brands and stuff like that.
Yeah, the satire in this quote-unquote satire is pretty fucking ham-fisted.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know where he's coming from right away, but he continues to beat you over the head with it.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know if your edition had this, but the very first page in mine had first section had a note that said, "Note: all planets, men, and gods in this book are fictional."
Yeah, mine has that too.
I like that he comes out swinging right away with God doesn't exist.
Well, in the first chapter is called His Immaculate Origin, not Immaculate Origin.
Yeah.
So the Christ figure is not divine, even though he kind of has magic powers and is supernatural in some ways. But
And everyone refers to him as being Christ-like,
Well,
or
even
like an angel.
yeah, how he died too at the end with the
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, at the end the Fosterites come back and kill him.
and like a weird halo or something. I forget exactly how it panned out.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Yeah, he is. It's the Christ story. It just stops before the resurrection. So.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, the Fosterites are cool. I like that part of it a lot. The other thing that I liked a lot is the fact that it's, this high-tech environment, but it's written in the parlance of the 60s, which I kind of found to be jarring and also kind of hilariously naive sounding at points. He refers to the rocket ships a lot.
Yeah, rocket ships. And well, first of all, the fact that Mars is just kind of inhabitable by humans and there's Martians on it, Like, when was this? This came out in 1961, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we really had much knowledge about it yet, so,
No.
I mean, it was forward-thinking, for sure, but reading it now, it seems kind of hilarious.
It does that thing, too, where instead of, like, being like, oh, I'm going to watch TV, it's like, I'm going to watch the not
Stereotube.
Stereotube, yeah, where it just makes up a silly word for some normal technology.
Yeah, also there are a lot of, space waterbeds.
Yeah, water. Well, actually, this was kind of interesting. Somebody tried to patent waterbeds, a little bit after this book came out, but the patent was denied because they cited this book as a previous instance of somebody coming up with the waterbed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome then.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so now I think if you're about to start this book, you know exactly what you're getting into.
Yeah.
It's basically a pipe and slippers and robe and waterbed book.
Yeah, exactly. Like it totally, like Playboy magazine, like reviews of the cool hi-fis and martinis, and kind of it's very much that kind of culture, I think.
Yeah. So I think it's probably a good time to take a little break here, and then we're gonna come back and get a little more in depth here about this wonderful, wonderful piece of fiction. So please stay tuned. All right, welcome back to I Don't Even Own a Television. I am here again with Adam Marler.
Hello.
And we are still talking about Robert Heinlein, unfortunately. So I wanted to talk a little bit with you here about Valentine Michael Smith, our Christ Martian character.
Yes.
First, he discovers human religion. Oh, you know what? We forgot to mention grok.
Grok, yeah.
Yeah, the word grok comes from this book.
Yes.
So.
I'm not sure where. I kind of knew that word around before I knew this book, but I can't really think of what context I first heard it in.
Comic book stores, tabletop gaming.
Yeah, I think there's a few video games even.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely pervaded nerd culture in general since then. And in this book, the Martians use the word grok to mean drink, but because water is so rare on Mars, grok is also means to, to be, to understand, et cetera, et cetera. And they eat each other, and they call that grokking too.
Yes, yes. It's kind of like a quasi-proto-New Age kind of universal understanding kind of thing.
With cannibalism. Yeah. So anyway, first Valentine Michael Smith discovers religion after he begins to grok human culture a little bit more. I believe he says, I am thou. is like one of the big catchphrases in this.
Thou art God.
Yeah, thou art God, and I am thou. Yeah. And this book is subtle as hell.
Right.
But yeah, so he discovers religion through the Fosterite cult, which we had mentioned previously. And he sticks around with them for a little while, and then they get kind of sick of him and oust him. And then he starts his own religion called the Church of All Worlds. Yes. And from this point on, this is where the book just spirals out of control from an actual narrative into just straight up like polemic. Yeah. Because he really gets into, how this religion is like, the most sensible one that's ever
Of
existed.
course. Where everybody can fuck whoever they want.
Yeah, but you can't be gay.
No,
which they've mentioned a couple times.
There's got to be limits.
Yeah, the Jillian character is quite outspokenly homophobic in this book. When Valentine is trying to grok the human sexual relationships, he doesn't understand why there's this male-female thing. Martians don't have gender, apparently.
Right.
So he doesn't understand why, and he's like, well, why don't men also have sex with men? And the quote is something like, oh, well, that's weird and wrong.
Yeah, I think, it said something like homosexuals have a wrongness. And
an oddness, I believe was the word.
Like that.
Yeah, and he likes to make things disappear into alternate dimensions.
Yeah,
and
so he blasts some bad guys into the sixth dimension or something.
Yeah, as the book goes on, this becomes more and more important because as he starts to become more and more of a Heinlein's stand-in, he just starts taking people out left and right. So, his religion is really interesting. It is founded mostly on these philosophical concepts rather than real quote unquote faith.
Right.
In a way that comes across as very, very lectury. Like there's a lot of parts of this book where you feel like you're just being lectured. And anyway, so the reason I wanted to mention this the most, though, is that there was actually a guy who ended up a couple years after this book was published. He ended up founding this religion in real life. He had a ton of correspondence with Heinlein as well. I don't think Heinlein was actually part of the church, but
I don't think Heinlein'd be too into it. Sounds a little too corny for him.
Yeah, probably, but he definitely didn't discourage it either.
Yeah, sure.
But there are people who decided they were going to recreate this in real life without the Martian. So I don't know. The guy who founded it in real life, his name was Tim Zell, I believe, originally. Yeah, and but he later changed it to Oberon Zell Ravenheart. But yeah, apparently, I guess the real life version of it was kind of neo-pagan, but in a lot of ways they started using a ton of the imagery and the words from this book. In that, they would say "Thou art God" and "Never thirst" and things like that, and the things that the characters do. And I guess this actually kind of. Surprisingly, for a few years, he had a pretty large congregation, and that's kind of strange. But yeah, the fact that Smith is this, completely ignorant character who has no concept of religion at all, or culture, or, how friendships work or anything like that, just gives Heinlein this incredible platform to just start laying it on thick. And as the book progresses, it becomes more and more about that, like we had spoken, to the point at the end of this book where the people from his previous religion decide that he's too dangerous to stay alive, and so they kill him, and he rises to heaven, basically.
Yeah.
The weird Heinlein Mars heaven or whatever.
Right.
And it's I don't know, I have to admit, the first half of this book I read thoroughly. The second half I did not.
No.
I pretty much kind of skimmed through it because there's no story anymore.
Right. Well, he does have a career as a magician at a carnival.
Oh yeah, that's true. And he joins the military for a little bit. But
that's strange.
The carnival magician thing I found really interesting.
Yeah, and they meet the tattooed lady, and I think is she the first member of their religion? I can't remember. Yeah,
she is. She introduces him to the Fosterites first.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
And then she does end up becoming the first member of the Church of All Worlds later on. I can't remember if that's before or after he joins the military, and then after 3 weeks he gets kicked out for making people's pants disappear.
Heinlein's I always wanted to do that when I was in the military.
There's a Benny Hill quality to this book.
It's a little slapstick, yeah. Well, especially how he just kind of zaps people and they just go broop into the other dimension. It's kind of comical too.
Yeah, and the way that the female characters are treated, you can hum yakety sax behind this entire book. So.
Yes, especially so there's this part I highlighted about Jill's outfit.
Oh, okay, great.
She put the street suit she had changed into back into her locker and put on a dinner dress that she kept there for emergencies. It was a demure little number, barely translucent, and with bustle and bust pads so subdued that they merely recreated the effect she would have produced had she been wearing nothing. So
Man.
it's like a transparent dress? I don't know.
That she keeps in her locker for emergencies.
Emergencies. Oh, I need my transparent dress.
Yeah, like emergency dates,
Right,
I guess.
yeah.
Because also forgot to mention, single women in this book refer to themselves as spinsters.
Well, yeah. Well, it was kind of very strange, too, because, like, didn't all the women characters ended up, like, getting married and having babies at the end or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's okay for ladies, but not for guys.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really hard to kind of separate this book from the author in the way that a lot of bad fiction is, as I'm discovering.
Yeah.
Like, since I started this podcast, I'm amazed at how many, especially sci-fi, bad books really kind of revolve around just being, a platform for shitty opinions.
Yeah. Well, I think sci-fi has always had that kind of like speculative bent where you can kind of pontificate a little bit, and if it's done right, you can do it well. But if other times, like this, it just kind of comes off as like a sermon from the author.
I'm not a fan of Orson Scott Card either.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends who were really into Ender's Game when I was little, and I ended up reading it a couple years ago for the first time, and like, I didn't like the book. I find the man's opinions themselves to be particularly awful, and everything that he's said recently regarding homosexuality and stuff like that. But Ender's Game, despite having, some weird ethics in it, was enjoyable.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Yeah, when I was like 13 or 14, I liked it a lot back then. But
yeah, and this isn't that enjoyable at all.
No, again, the first half was kind of cool. The plot was interesting, and the premise is cool. But then, it just kind of petered out and turned into, Heinlein's ideas.
I kept hoping that we were gonna see more of Mars, or return to Mars in some meaningful way, but you never really do.
Well, I kept hoping the Martians would come back and kick butt and clean house or something, but they're just kind of invisible and they don't really ever do anything in the entire novel. Yeah, no, I mean,
Once again, the character really does only exist as a platform, which is kind of disappointing me because it is such an interesting premise, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the idea also, that he was a human who was raised by Martians as opposed to being like a Martian, and what that's led to. But rather than examining Martian culture in any, interesting way, it's more like he's just taking shots at American Western culture, society in general.
Yeah, they're too prudish, but at the same time, the women need to just know their place a little bit better.
Yeah. He's really into that kind of subservient attitude, which is probably best illustrated by the fact that almost every woman in this book is constantly making a drink for a man. or cooking. I want to read this one part. I don't know if we should save it for the dramatic readings, but we can. Is this about pushing the button?
No, I don't know that one.
Oh, okay, yeah. If you want to save it, that's fine. But there's a part where Jillian is arguing with her newspaper boyfriend about who's going to cook dinner, and cooking dinner apparently consists of pushing a button, but the guy's still like, well, I'm not going to cook dinner.
This woman's work. I couldn't push that
exactly.
button. That button's pink. Are you kidding?
Yeah. Oh man, it's full of just the hits keep coming if you're into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's some stuff in here that is so objectionable that I don't even really want to get into it in detail.
There's the one thing that Jill says. I don't know if you
I think that's so exactly what we were both going to get into here. And he basically applies that women who get assaulted, it's their own fault. And it's really gross. He delivers it through the mouth of a female character, which I think maybe let him think he was getting off the hook a little bit.
Yeah.
But, oh man, it's ugly. It's ugly stuff.
Well, and it's because she's like, Valentine Michael Smith, you don't need to save me with your Mars powers. If a man's assaulting me, it was probably my fault. So
Yeah, so there's that. And, there's definitely the weird attitudes about homosexuality.
Strange.
The wrongness about them or the oddness about them.
Yeah.
And then it's all kind of interwoven within this, mishmash of polyamorous politics and weird kind of NWO paranoia.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's strange. Yeah, definitely he had trouble separating his personal opinions from the plot.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes sense now that, like you said in the first segment here, that he wrote the first half far previous to the second half. Because, it's pretty much like 2 books. Right.
And a few reviews I said that we read said that, like, oh man, the second half just turns into all the novels he wrote in the 70s, where it was him just preaching and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, maybe this was like the transition period to his later career where he was just kind of spouting his philosophy.
Well, I know there are 2 editions of this book as well.
Yeah.
And I know the one I have is the more recent one, and I'm curious about how much of this was actually added in the second edition.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And I wish I would have done some research, but I didn't. So
yeah, well, like 70,000 words were cut out, which that's pretty significant.
I think the weirdest thing about this for me is the fact that later on Heinlein was like, oh no, I wasn't trying to tell people I had the answers,
Oh, right.
I just wanted to shake things up a bit. And it's like, no, dude, you were totally telling people you had the answers.
Right. You don't, I'm just going to shake things up a bit with the latter half of my entire career.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it almost seems like he, after the fact, was like, no, I was courting conversaries. So, sort of like how the guy who made The Room calls it a dark comedy now.
Right, yeah. So it's a good out if you can pull that off.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess when, the entire science fiction community is riding your jock, you could get away with a lot, so...
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the things that really amazed me, is that he was held in such high regard by his contemporaries. I mean, like, despite the fact that I consider them all to be far superior to him when it comes to storytelling and stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be clear, it's not badly written, really. I mean, I didn't find it... No,
not at all.
The actual language I thought was good, but yeah.
It's just, it's devoid of a meaningful narrative, and that does characterize a lot of his work. Starship Troopers was a lot more, action-packed, but it still, went down these rabbit holes at times that would get really preachy, and ultimately does have kind of that weird Ender's Game sort of pseudo-fascist stuff going on in the background when you start to think about it.
Right. Like, the military is the best thing about humanity. It is, we just soldiers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, I mean, it's weird to me that none of this was satirical.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, if this was handled differently, it could have been a hilarious, like, funny satire. Like, a guy from Mars that doesn't know anything about human culture comes back and is like, what is this? Oh, man.
I get the impression that he was gunning for that at points.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't, it almost seems too angry to be funny in a way.
Right.
And there are definitely parts that seem like he was going for a joke or, like a wink and a nod, but it's just so heavy-handed. Like, there's a lot of points that are repeated throughout the book, and one of the main things is this cannibalism thing, which the Martians eat each other as a solution to overpopulation. So at a certain point in their life, they sacrifice themselves to become the meal of their nest mates or their brothers. Martians are all brothers. There are female brothers and male brothers down on Earth. Whoa! I almost forgot how many times in this book women are referred to as females.
Yeah, that's. I can't imagine that was common back then, but it's gross.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of these females did this. There's also at least like 10 counts of characters going men or women.
Yeah, well, it was funny too because he has these sexy secretaries in his place, and they kind of talk back to him and give him sass and stuff sometimes, which was kind of interesting. I don't know if he was trying to like make things a little more equal, but
I think in his mind he was. It does really come across, like you said earlier, though, as Mad Men-ish, where it's like like these girls are being sassy, but we'll put up with it because we're men and who cares?
Yeah,
women.
So okay, this is a good example of a paragraph I highlighted. So he writes this story about a kitten that comes into a church and it has a hurt paw, and this Jubal Harshaw writes this. And he's like, this is going to be my tearjerker story. I better write it under my pen name, which is a woman's name. I can't remember what it was. But anyways, he writes it, and he gets one of his secretaries to come listen to it. to try to get her opinion on it. And she starts crying, and he's like, typical crying about my silly story. But anyways, then he goes. She asks him, Jubal, aren't you ever ashamed? He says no. And she's like, someday I'm going to kick you right in your fat stomach for one of these. And then he says, I know, but I can't pimp for my sisters. They'd be too old, and I never had anybody. Get your fanny indoors and take care of it before I change your mind. And she goes, yes, boss. So, like, she gives it back to him a little bit, but then at the end, she's like, yes, boss.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely kind of a common criticism of his work as well, is that, he does have these kind of pseudo-empowered female characters, but then always feels the need to put them back in their place.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and all the women, like his secretaries and Jill and all the other characters, they're like scientists, successful reporters, really smart. But then, they're frequently making drinks for guys, cooking dinner and stuff like that. Yeah, like for a guy who is fairly progressive as far as like, women should be able to, have power too in society. Yeah. He's very, very conservative about the whole like relationship between women and men aspects of things. Sorry, go on. Yeah. They can have power as long as the man kind of limits that power and sets the limits to it. Yeah.
In a later one of his books, I actually read this quoted earlier on the internet. He says that he believes that all lawyers and politicians should be women, which, like, hey, that's cool. But then he goes on to say it's because they have this mysterious feminine quality that men can't understand and exploit.
Oh, right, because maybe they're from Mars.
Oh shit! Well, on that note, I think we're gonna go to break. We'll come back and do some little segments. And hopefully you guys at home will still be there listening, so stick around. Howdy, little shavers. This episode is brought to you by Audible for when you want to put words in your head without reading. They have a fine selection of audiobooks, like thousands of them, and they even have this book we're talking about now. Do I recommend it? No, but they also have good books too. So why not go ahead and sign up now at audibletrial.com/I don't even own a television. You'll get great stuff and help me out. So thanks a lot, okay? Yeah, cool. See you later. Welcome back to I Don't Even Own a Television. I said it right this time. I'm your host, Jay Williams Friedman, J.W. Friedman, Jay Feezy. And with me today is Adam Marler.
Hello again.
Hey again. Hello. And we're discussing the legacy of Sugarfoots.
Sugarfoot.
Also known as Stranger in a Strange Land. Originally, the working title was A Martian Named Smith.
Was it really?
Yeah. I guess he was kind of inspired by a conversation he had at a sci-fi convention where they were joking about the unpronounceable names that people give aliens, and somebody said, "You've never seen a Martian named Smith in a book?" And so he was like, took that as a challenge, I guess. Right, yeah. So, but yeah, that was the working title of the book while he was writing it, I guess. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we're going to do a few segments here. But before we get into that, I did want to take a second here to quote this review of the book from when it was first released by Orville Prescott of the New York Times, who described it as a disastrous mishmash of science fiction, laborious humor, dreary social satire, and cheap eroticism. Puerile and ludicrous. When a nonstop orgy is combined with a lot of preposterous chatter, it becomes unendurable, an affront to the patience and intelligence of readers.
Well, that's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think like in 3 or 4 sentences, that kind of sums up everything you need to know about the book in a much more succinct way than we've been trying to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess you'd have to read that really slow to fill up an entire podcast, though.
Yep.
Okay, so I think it's probably time here for us to do a few little games.
Yes.
Let's start out with what would they do? Sometimes the tension's so hard to divine, and others the clear as day. So tell me, what would they do? So, in What Would They Do, we're going to take a character from the book, put him in a situation where he isn't in the book, and try to tease out how he or she would feel in this situation. And in this case, I'm wondering what you think Valentine Michael Smith would do at Burning Man.
Oh, man. Burning Man. So that maybe he's like, oh, this is just like Mars. I love it. Or, I don't know.
I was hoping that he'd just make it all disappear.
Maybe, yeah, ideally. It's like, oh man, what is this? Dreadlocks everywhere.
Yeah. These people smell weird and they're dirty.
I'm from Mars and this is too much for me. Oh my God.
When I said free love, I didn't mean this.
Right.
So, yeah.
See like naked dudes on a bike with lights all over it drive by and he shakes his head.
Yes, it shakes his head slowly and the bike disappears.
Right, bike is zapped to the 17th dimension.
I don't know. Yeah, I was just sitting outside and thinking about it. Like,
well, it kind of has a Burning Man-ish vibe, like the free love. Burning Man's a little libertarian-ish too, so it's
a little
lot, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, as listeners know, I'm from San Francisco, so I'm surrounded by Burning Man culture, and I would definitely categorize it as something that's pretty. Has that weird kind of libertarian seasteading sort of ethos at its core, hey, look, we don't need society to get along, we can do this all ourselves. Kind of that startup culture.
Yeah,
and I guess nowadays, Google is flying in helicopters to it and stuff like that. So I think any counterculture element of it is pretty much shot now, I would guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't imagine him having a great time. At first, I was like, "Oh yeah, that would be awesome. He'd probably fit right in." And then I was "No, he'd probably think they were stupid." So,
yeah.
They're kind of Fosterite-esque in a way.
They are, yeah. Well, they'd ask him for he'd like, "Can I share water with you, brother?" And then they'd ask him for a Bitcoin or something.
Yeah, or like some ecstasy.
Right. Yeah.
A Bitcoin. That this water sharing ceremony is going to cost you 500 Dogecoins. That's a big part of the book too, is water sharing, because water is so rare on Mars that's the ultimate way you show your brotherhood with someone is to share water, which this comes up a ton in sci-fi and fantasy novels. I've noticed. Like I'm reading. In between all of these awful books, I've been reading the Robert Jordan Wheel of Time series to keep up with my wife. There's a race of desert people who also, have water sharing ceremonies.
Yeah, well, in Dune too. I mean, that's like the main thing.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder what that is. I don't know. Just a scarce resource, maybe that makes for interesting narrative elements.
Yeah, I think so, and it's the easiest one to think of.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, so let's kind of get back here to. I have another "What would you do?" question here, and this one is purely speculative, of course. But what do you think is Jubal Harshaw's favorite Rush album?
Oh man, you can't. Oh man. Well, so okay, this is in the future, so he would know about all of them, I would assume.
Yeah. No. Maybe. Yeah. He would. It's in the future.
Right.
They've all been released at this point. I'm going to say Presto.
Presto?
That's my take on it.
So I'll have to defer to you. You're the Rush expert.
I pretty much just threw that in so I could mention Rush again. By the way, there is a book about Rush. People have told me a lot. And not only is it about Rush, it's called The Philosophy of Rush.
Oh, that's not good.
So guess what I'm going to be talking about soon?
Yeah.
All right, anyway. But to get back on track here, let's go ahead and jump into what is your fave.
What is your fave? What is your fave? When you're presented with a list of options, what is your fave?
Okay, so what is your fave is exactly what it sounds like. And in this, I guess it's exactly what it sounds like if you're familiar with the jargon of the millennials. But it's really what is your favorite.
Right.
Sort of like how za is short for pizza or apps for appetizers. Yep. So basically, I'm curious here of what is your favorite of Jubal Harshaw's three-woman harem? Who is your fave, I guess?
Okay, so he's got, I wrote this down, he's got Annie, Miriam, and Dorcas, and they're described as like pleasantly plump to stupendously slim, something really weird like that. And like everything in between, and one's a redhead, one's blonde, and one's got dark hair, something like that. I don't know which one would be my favorite.
Mine is Dorcas because that name is rad.
That's a cool name, yeah.
I don't know, like it sounds to me more like something that, my friends and I in junior high school called each other.
Right. It's a little Old Testament-y too.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even realize that it was a real name until I looked it up while, listening to this and was like, oh, wow, yeah, I guess at some point in time people did name their kid Dorcas. What is your favorite pet name?
Pet name, let's see. I'm going to look at the list again.
Okay. Yeah, we'll once again refer to this list from the All.
Yep. Honey lamb, that sounds like it good at like a Mediterranean restaurant maybe. I like the Babe.
The Babe is good.
The Babe, yeah.
Yeah, just the Babe.
The Babe.
That's kind of forward thinking for the
Sure.
1960s, right? I mean, that sounds like how, awful people talk now. So.
Right, yeah, it was at its time in awfulness. Yeah. Better than, some of them are creepy. Youngster.
Yeah, and Little
weird.
One and all
Little
that.
One.
There's a lot of it kind of veers from pet name territory into like things that parents call their kids.
Yeah. Whoa. Oh shit. Okay. So it's hinted at in the text. I don't remember exactly where, but one of Jubal Harshaw's sexy secretaries is his granddaughter.
Oh yeah, and they do. They just kind of vaguely mention that offhand, and I keep forgetting to mention that Jubal Harshaw is Dr. Lawyer, which I love.
Oh yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, I've got a. Yeah, and he's supposed to be like 80 or something.
Yeah, and he's sort of physically frail, but he's still very virile. But he doesn't mess around with these ladies. He just bosses them around.
Right. He just like ogles them while he works on his books. And
yeah, like they're very careful to mention, or pardon me, Heinlein's very careful to mention several times that they don't mess around with each other, but I'm not sure why exactly he mentions that.
Well, it's strange too. From like, why would they be there if it's like, oh, he just checks them out all the time? Like, what's the point? I don't know. It seemed like a strange thing to just throw in there for some reason.
Yeah, I have no idea, and it's never examined beyond just like, hey, this is a thing. This guy lives in a house with these three ladies that aren't his girlfriend, and
but they're all hot. They're
his wife,
hot.
But they're all hot, and he's not sleeping with them, but he's constantly, like flirting with them and stuff. And
it was weird.
It is. But yeah, mine was Sugarfoots. That was my favorite. I even mentioned that earlier, but I just wanted to say Sugarfoots again.
Yeah.
Because I love the pluralization of foots. It just cracks me up. And it also reminds me of from Venture Brothers, Princess Tiny Feet.
Tiny Feet. I'm surprised that isn't on the list. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. There's some really strange things. It makes me wonder if Heinlein has a foot thing or if he just thinks that's cute. But either way, it's weird. So here we go with the world's most popular podcasting segment, and by world I mean, the people who listen to this, which is actually quite a small percentage. But here we're going to do a dramatic reading.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound recorded. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
Okay, so I have to admit, I do not have a dramatic reading prepared because I was listening to this on audiobook and did not want to go through the trouble of actually transcribing something. So I'm going to defer to you here, Adam, and will you please regale our audience with some of these wonderful words?
Okay, I got a good one here. Okay, so this is chapter 10. This is when we first meet Jubal Harshaw, and the whole first chunk of the chapter is kind of like this, but it starts off like this. While Mrs. Douglas was speaking too freely on a subject that she knew too little about, Jubal E. Harshaw, LL.B., M.D., S.C.D., bon vivant, gourmet, sybarite, popular author extraordinary, and neo-pessimist philosopher, was sitting by a swimming pool at home in the Poconos, scratching the thick gray thatch on his chest and watching his three secretaries splash in the pool. They were all three amazingly beautiful. They were also amazingly good secretaries. In Harshaw's opinion, the principle of least action required that utility and beauty be combined.
That's so gross.
The gray thatch on his chest.
I just like that utility and beauty should be combined. Like he's talking about like a sports car or something instead of human beings.
Right. So he's a lawyer, a medical doctor, and he's got a doctorate in some kind of science.
Oh, wow. So he's like Dr. Lawyer Science then. Dr.
Lawyer Science, and a bon vivant, gourmet, sybarite, popular author extraordinaire, and neo-pessimist philosopher.
And completely not a stand-in for Heinlein.
No.
Not in any way. Amazing author. Amazingly popular author, is it? I don't know.
Right, yeah. And genius all around, kind of genius.
Yeah, he was awesome as hell, and not supposed to be me. Later.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, one of the reviews I read was saying that when a lot of books have like a stand-in character that's supposed to be the author, but they're funny or they're a little lame or silly, kind of, to kind of temper the fact, oh, I'm putting myself in my own book. But not Heinlein. He's like, I'm putting myself in my own book, and I'm awesome.
Yeah, it's O'Reilly-esque.
Yeah.
That, like, it really did remind me of kind of that same, as in previous episode we discussed Those Who Trespass, and Bill O'Reilly, almost every character in that book is supposed to be him, and he makes no bones about the fact that they're all cool as shit. And I feel like Heinlein's kind of setting the table for that style here.
A little bit, yeah.
Definitely. It is, yeah. Wow, look at this rad guy who's an author, and he's also so smart about all this stuff, and he knows all this, but he's kind of old, and he has a lot of chest hair, but, like, all these hot girls still want to hang out with him.
Yeah, why? That's so weird.
You probably, like, I don't know, like, he's like a step away from being, like, he's bald and wears glasses, and, like, his name's Robert.
Right. Sure, yeah. Yeah. Well, and he's got, like a dozen or so pen names that he writes all his weird books under.
Yeah.
Jubal Harshaw does.
Yeah, well, because obviously no one's going to want to read a sad story written by a man. So.
No, of course. And, if they look at it and be like, what is this? I'm not,
Yeah, and
I'm a man, too. I can't read this sad story.
His friends would all think that he's a wimp.
Right, yeah. What are you reading that kitten book from Jubal Harshaw?
Harshaw and his kittens again.
Right.
Where's the babe?
Right, where's the babe? The babe.
Yeah, so I guess we've kind of exhausted this topic almost as much as Heinlein did in the book itself. So I think before we go here, I just want to ask you if you would recommend this book earnestly, ironically, or both.
No. Neither. It's too long and boring to read, ironically. It has some interesting ideas, like just the basic concept interesting. Just kind of maybe read the Wikipedia article about it.
Yeah, I'd pretty much go there too. I think while there are, some pretty hilarious dialogue snippets, it doesn't make up for just the incredible weight of the polemic itself. And it's not really, it's too long to read for laughs, for sure.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
And it's too just fucking out there to recommend seriously.
Yeah,
so, I don't know. I mean, it did, to me, as a guy who was only familiar with Heinlein from Starship Troopers, it was kind of jarring to be introduced to his politics in such an all-at-once way. But, apparently, I guess, he built up to this throughout his career. But, yeah, jumping directly from Starship Troopers, which was kind of written as this, I wouldn't say young adult, but definitely, like, action-packed, kind of exciting thing. Jumping right from that into this was like, whoa! It's like just hitting a wall at full speed. And, yeah, no, I mean, even if you like sci-fi, which I do, even if you like Heinlein, I would say this is probably, from everything I've read, not his best work. So.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of curious because it's super famous and, like, well-renowned. I mean, it's, won awards, and it's in, the Library of Congress named it as a book that shaped America. I'm kind of like, why? There's dozens of better ones from that era, too.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, too, that almost all of the praise this book has received has been long after it was published. It was pretty much panned at the time. People have kind of come back to it after the fact and decided they liked it. Even the New York Times. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Maybe just his kind of stature as a writer kind of changed its legacy a little bit. I don't know.
I think that's exactly it. And I mean, especially all the people that have come out and said that he was a huge influence on them. Including a lot of writers that I really enjoy. It's just very strange. I forget the quote, who it was that said it, but there was it Asimov? Yeah, it was Asimov that said that from the minute his first story was written, it was pretty much in agreement amongst the community that he was the greatest sci-fi writer who had ever lived. And like, no, I would say Asimov is like head and shoulders above him.
Much better candidate for that, yeah.
Yeah, people really deferred to him,
I mean, he's a good writer. It's not poorly written at all. It's, his sentences work well, and they go, it flows nicely. It's not inept at all.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess I could imagine that maybe in a short format, like...
Yeah, that's true.
Or like a serial format, he'd be a lot more entertaining because he'd kind of have to stick to the plot, and maybe that's where that sort of praise was coming from, was before the fact, before he got into stuff like this. But yeah, so I'm saying this just to say that while I don't recommend this book, the vast majority of the sci-fi writers in the world appear to, so that's fucking weird. Before we go, Adam, is there any way that people can stay in touch with you and your thoughts?
Sure. If you want to find out what other sci-fi books I didn't think were great or others that I did think were great, you can follow me on Twitter at Dr_Cop.
Yes, Dr_Cop at Twitter. So check out his account. It is funny. If you want to get in touch with me, you can email me at idon'tevenownaTelevision@gmail.com. Tell me what's up. Visit our webpage, idon'tevenownaTelevision.com. There's links to Facebook and Twitter and all that exciting social networking stuff there. And, you know, thanks again for listening. I really can't thank you enough. The response so far has been really surprisingly positive, and I'm having a great time. I hope you are too. So, once again, thanks for coming out, Adam.
Yeah, no problem. It was fun.
And to everybody else, please keep reading crap.